Welcome to Chatting the Pictures. My name is Cara Finnegan, and I'm a writer, teacher, and historian of photography.
And I'm Michael Shaw. I'm a writer, a psychologist, and also the publisher of Reading the Pictures.
Out of respect for the 500,000 Americans who've now died from the coronavirus and the approaching one-year anniversary of the pandemic, we discuss this early and important image documenting the loss of life.
This photograph was taken by Lucas Jackson for Reuters. The drone photo was taken on April 9th, 2020, and shows bodies being buried on New York's Hart Island, where the Department of Corrections was dealing with a dramatic increase in unclaimed corpses amidst the coronavirus outbreak in New York City.
Hart Island since 1869 has served as New York City's Potter's Field, a place where the dead who have no next of kin and who cannot arrange a funeral may be buried. And this place has a really long, complex history. For example, it was a prison camp during the Civil War. It was used as a quarantine station during an 1870 yellow fever epidemic. It was later used as a prison, as a workhouse. And in 1985, more than a dozen people who died as a result of AIDS were actually buried there because it was feared that their remains were contagious. Hart Island is accessible only by boat, and it's suggested that the remains of more than 1 million people are buried there today.
It really is a hallowed site. And the open space conveys a kind of echo or resonance of history. And then there's something really interesting about this particular photograph. We're almost a year out from the beginning of this pandemic. And also the 500,000 death milestone, the unbelievable number, coincides with some other salient facts. One being that with the exit of Donald Trump, who really denied the existence of the virus, and now having Joe Biden as the president and someone who's fully embraced the reality surrounding the crisis, we're starting to be able to look back at images like this, and they help us really embrace the loss, the grief, and the reality of this in a way that we just haven't been able to because of the political condition. Another thing that has a meaning to it that really didn't at the time is the ground, the fresh turned dirt, and how it's pretty clear that they've left space to extend those trenches, perhaps all the way to the water. So, we didn't know that at the time. But when we look at this now, we also see that as prescient. There were many aerial photographs taken that day, but they didn't have the impact of Lucas's photograph. And I've been trying to figure out why that is. I think there's a couple of reasons. One is when we see the trench and the workers and the caskets in this lower left, it feels like we're just coming up upon it. Probably like the drone itself. So there's something shocking in that respect and something surprising, almost new. And then when you have that long perspective looking out at the harbor and then the city in the distance, it literally also is giving you the long view. So the particular shot and the particular angle seems to really explain why this photograph, one of the very first we saw of mortality and actual caskets, carries so much impact even now, almost a year later.
Yeah, you really get that sense when you compare the foreground and the background of a kind of isolation from human activity, in the sense that you can see the cityscape in the background. The water is almost like a moat surrounding the island, keeping people out, keeping people away. But then you have that contrasted with the activity of the digging of the trenches and the precision with which the people in this photograph are doing their work, right? They're literally using devices, I think, to space the caskets apart so that when they cover them with dirt, the dirt will fall between these, what are essentially piles of caskets. And the space itself, as you pointed out, is really haunted. You've got these abandoned buildings, but they're pretty sturdily built. They're still standing. The very unsaturated look of the photograph, kind of a classic early spring gray skies, the flat blues and the reds of the photo. But then that's contrasted with these kind of punctuating moments of trees. In fact, there even appear to be trees growing on top of the building. So you get this really interesting juxtaposition of life and death and abandonment all in the same frame.